The scent of rosemary chicken used to mean comfort in our house, but tonight it clung to the air like a warning. I'm Geraldine Rhodes, 64, Atlanta born, and before I spill what shattered 40 years of marriage in a single sentence, tell me down in the comments what time it is where you're watching. I need to know I'm not facing this revelation alone. We were all there for Sunday supper. Our two sons, their wives, the grandbabies chasing each other between the dining room chairs. My husband, Franklin, carved the chicken with his steady surgeon's hands, the same hands that once trembled when he slipped a ring onto mine. The conversation drifted from college basketball to mortgage rates until Franklin cleared his throat. "I have an announcement," he said, voice calm, almost rehearsed. The room hushed. Grandson Noah froze mid-sneak of a biscuit. Franklin laid the knife down, folded his napkin with surgical precision, and looked straight at me. "Jerry, I need you to know something. I've cared about you deeply, but I've never been in love with you. These 40 years were companionship, not passion." For a heartbeat, his words didn't land. My mind tried to label them a joke, a twisted toast gone wrong. But Franklin's eyes held no mischief, only a strange, burdenless peace, as if he'd dropped a suitcase he'd carried across 4 decades. The silence cracked when Mary Beth, our eldest's wife, gasped. Plates clinked, forks paused midair. I swallowed, feeling the table tilt beneath me. "Franklin Rhodes," I managed, "what on earth are you talking about?" "I'm saying the truth should live in the light now," he replied. "I've shared my heart, my love, with someone else all this time." Blood roared in my ears. A dozen possibilities flashed. A nurse at the hospital, an old high school flame, maybe an online affair like stories on daytime TV. Franklin inhaled, looked down the table, not at a stranger but at Myra. Myra, my baby sister. She sat frozen, hands still curled around her wine glass. White replaced every shade in her face. The room tilted further. I gripped the table edge. "Our connection began back when you left for that nursing conference in '87, Franklin said, words soft but slicing. "It wasn't planned. It just grew." My sons pushed back their chairs at once. Jamal's fist slammed the table, rattling silverware. "You're telling us you've been cheating on Mom with her sister for 40 years? His voice cracked between rage and disbelief. Little Noah started to cry. Mary Beth whisked him from the room. Myra set her glass down, finally finding breath. "Jerry, I don't." The word snapped out of me sharper than I felt. My voice sounded like someone else's, steady while my heartbeat galloped. I stood, pushing my chair so hard it scraped wood on wood. Not now. I turned toward the kitchen, needing air, needing sanity. But a sudden thought stopped me. The grandchildren. This table was their safe harbor. Would I leave them shipwrecked? Pain pulsed behind my eyes, but I straightened, facing Franklin. "Finish," I said, though each syllable tasted of ash. Franklin blinked as if surprised at my composure. "I'm sorry." He paused. "We're sorry, but we believe honesty is healthier for everyone moving forward." "Healthier?" I echoed, heat rising. Myra reached out, palm up like an apology too fragile to stand. I couldn't look at her. Couldn't let 30 years of shared secrets and sister laughter shield her now. Beside me, Asia, our younger son's wife, stood, cheeks wet. "Kids," she whispered to the grandchildren, herding them toward the den with cartoons and distance from adult wreckage. Jamal followed, knuckles white. I faced Franklin again, the man who'd held my hand through cancer scares, who'd memorized my coffee order, who'd built a backyard swing set for our first grandchild. Even those memories quivered, image static on a breaking screen. "Jerry," he began, but a phone buzz sliced the moment. Myra glanced down, flinched, silenced her cell. Franklin's gaze darted to it, and in that flicker I saw fear. Fear that the rest of their secrets might spill sooner than planned. I inhaled slowly, gathering shredded dignity. You want honesty? Fine. The truth won't stay neatly folded like your napkin. You just opened a box none of us can close. My voice trembled now, but I let it. Dinner's over. I walked from the dining room, past framed photos of anniversaries now branded as false anniversaries, into the cool twilight of the porch. Cicadas droned, a relentless chorus refusing quiet. Inside, muffled voices rose, regrets already sprouting like weeds through cracked stone. I pressed a hand to my heart, feeling the swing between numb and burning. Something inside whispered that survival might begin tonight, but so would revelation, because secrets have families too, and they never stay content in the dark. Out on the horizon, a distant storm flickered, promising one thing: thunder always follows lightning, and this family meal had struck the first bolt. Rain arrived just after midnight, rattling the porch roof like 1,000 small accusations. I sat on the swing wrapped in Franklin's old cardigan. Funny how muscle memory reaches for comfort before the brain remembers who owned it. Inside, voices had lowered to careful murmurs. The storm outside was quieter than the one dividing my family room. The door opened with a reluctant sigh. My older son, Jamal, stepped onto the porch, holding 2 mugs of chamomile. He ditched his suit jacket and rolled his sleeves the way his father always did after a long surgery. "Mom," he said, offering a cup, "hydrate, or at least hold something warm." Steam fogged my glasses as I lifted the mug. "Where's your brother?" "Calming the kids," Jamal answered. He leaned on the railing, rain mist spraying his shoulders. "Asia called her parents. They'll keep the grandchildren tomorrow so we can figure out next moves." His jaw tightened. Dad and Aunt Myra are packing overnight bags for the guest house. Guest house. The word landed like an insult. They'd shared my kitchen secrets, but now needed a safe bunker 30 yards away. I imagined them side by side in the carriage house, lights on, whispering victory or regret. The porch swing creaked. My voice found itself. He said their affair grew. Moss grows Jamal, quietly in shadow, but someone still decides not to scrape it off. Lightning split the sky, revealing Jamal's eyes glistening. "We'll scrape it, Mama, even if it means tearing up boards." He returned inside. A gust carried the smell of rosemary chicken, now turned cold and congealed, a feast transformed into evidence. Myra slid through the doorway next, barefooted, cardigan clutched like a shield. Her knees bent as if to sit, then straightened. "Jerry, may I—" "No." The word was gentle but final. Yet she lingered, rain beating on her curls. "I thought you'd left with Franklin," I said. She shook her head, voice trembling. "He's finalizing arrangements for a hotel. I couldn't leave without something." She reached into her pocket and pulled out Nana's sapphire brooch, the one Mama left her, the one I pinned on her prom dress 45 years ago. Rain dotted the velvet box. "You gave this to me once," she whispered. "I can't wear it now." I stared at the stone glinting under porch light, colors dulled by clouded glass. Myra placed it on the wicker table, then backed away, tears cutting rivulets through raindrops on her cheeks. Before retreating, she whispered, "He promised we'd tell you together, gently, but there's nothing gentle about betrayal." Then the door closed, leaving only the brooch between lightning flashes. A flash of memory returned. 7-year-old Myra, clinging to my hand on her first day at school, begging not to be left alone. I shook free of it. Present pain burned hotter than nostalgia. Inside, plates clinked. I found Asia rinsing dishes, sleeves rolled, eyes red. I figured I'd start cleanup, she said. She rarely used contractions when tense. Water hissed. The air smelled of detergent and grief. I joined her silently. Soap bubbles muffled the kitchen clock, yet every tick felt louder. After a stretch of washing and stacking, Asha asked, "Do you know why they came out now?" I shrugged, probably because secrets spoil faster than chicken. The sliding door opened. Franklin stepped inside, duffel strap crossing his chest. His voice was low, as though sound itself could deepen the wound. "Jerry, guest house is ready. Myra and I will stay there until decisions are made." He paused. "I'll respect whatever timetable you need." I stared at him. Hair grayer than yesterday, face suddenly unfamiliar. "Timetables?" I echoed. "Franklin, you two took 40 years. I'll need at least 40 minutes alone in my own house." Asia set a plate down with a soft thud, discreetly exiting. Franklin remained. "I never intended to hurt you," he said. "But intention doesn't roast the chicken," I replied. "You carved honesty tonight. Don't flinch at the carving knife now. Why? Why her? Why us this way?" He exhaled, shoulders deflating. "Because friendship with you felt safe," he said. "Because love with her felt inevitable, and because secrets rot souls." He looked down. "I'm tired of rot." I wanted to hurl the nearest plate, but decades of decorum chained my arms. Instead, I nodded toward the mudroom hallway. "Go before the storm floods the driveway." He obeyed, feet heavy. When the back door clicked shut, a hush settled, too loud to bear. I poured myself a glass of water, sipped, then spat it out. The taste of betrayal permeated even tap lines. Upstairs, spare bedrooms waited for grandchildren who wouldn't sleep here tonight. I climbed the stairs anyway, pausing at each family photo. Vacations, graduations, Christmas pajamas, all moments now suspect. At the landing mirror, I caught my reflection. Eyes swollen, hair frizzed by humidity, and realized this was the face of a woman freshly widowed, though still legally married. At the end of the hall, the master bedroom door gaped open, bed neatly made. I didn't enter. Instead, I stepped into the small craft room I'd neglected for years. Yarn, buttons, scrapbooks, quiet relics of the self I shelved for wifehood. I flicked on the lamp. Soft light bathed a half-finished quilt, a pattern called broken dishes, triangles pointing opposing directions. I sank into the sewing chair, rain drumming steady overhead, and threaded a needle. The fabric waited patiently. Hands remembered motions older than betrayal. Stitch by stitch, the quilt's jagged pieces promised a design I couldn't yet see, but creation felt possible again, even beautiful, precisely because it began from fragments. Outside, thunder rolled farther away, as if distance itself could dull its threat. I knew better. Storms circle back. But I also knew something else. Quilts, like hearts, grow stronger at every seam, and I had miles of stitching ahead before morning dared show its face. Sunlight arrived rudely early, pouring through sheer curtains as if nothing catastrophic had happened 12 hours before. I dozed in the craft room recliner, needle still threaded in my lap, the broken dishes quilt draped over my knees like unfinished testimony. Somewhere downstairs the coffee maker gurgled, habit trumping heartache. I padded to the kitchen barefoot. Jamal was at the stove scrambling eggs he wasn't eating, while Asia scrolled her phone, eyes swollen. The children's laughter, usually Saturday's soundtrack, was absent, shipped to grandparents' house overnight. Silence had taken the swing set. Asia looked up. "Your sister left before dawn. Suitcase, Uber, no goodbye." She sounded half relieved, half bereft. Jamal slid a plate toward me. "Eat." I stared at yellow curds that smelled of normalcy. Later, I said. Mail lay piled by the back door. Yesterday's deliveries ignored amid the explosion. On top sat a thick cream envelope addressed in Myra's looping script. To my sister, before the storm. My pulse quickened. I slid it open with a paring knife. Inside, a letter and 2 airline tickets to Santorini dated 3 months ahead. My silver anniversary surprise trip Franklin never mentioned. Myra's letter confessed she'd bought them, planning to let you two rediscover passion so we could all move forward more honestly. The irony cut sharper than the knife. Before anger could fully ignite, tires crunched the driveway gravel. Franklin's silver Lexus. He emerged looking decades older. Guesthouse duffel still in hand, eyes red-rimmed. Jamal moved instinctively between us, but I lifted a palm. Let him speak. Franklin set the bag down on the stoop like an offering. I'm driving to a motel near the hospital. Needed to return house keys and sign papers. He held out a manila folder. Separation forms. Dates blank, signatures absent. Whenever you're ready. His voice cracked. I thumbed the documents, heart thudding at the tangibility of goodbye. How gracious, I said, to give me homework after wrecking my syllabus. He flinched deservedly. Also, an explanation, he added, retrieving a USB drive from his pocket. It holds recordings. Therapy sessions Myra and I did. I want you to hear how we got here. Asia spoke up, arms folded. Why not spare her more pain? Franklin's gaze fixed on me because she deserves context. He stepped back, lifted the duffel, and paused. Jerry, I'm resigning from the hospital board Monday. I can't keep preaching integrity and trauma surgery after this. Then he left, taillights sliding down the lane like fading sirens. I squeezed the USB until plastic edges bit my palm. Part of me craved every ugly detail. Part wanted to hurl it into the garbage disposal. Jamal gently closed my fist around it. Later, he said, echoing my breakfast refusal, when you're armored. He wasn't wrong. Armor was necessary and fast. Mortgage, wills, the clinic we co-owned downtown, all tied to a man I now knew only in outline. I opened the laptop, heart hammering, and logged into our joint savings. Balance, 148,32, 40 years of prudent budgeting, vanished. Shock numbed me until dread followed. Had he siphoned funds to support 2 households? I dialed the bank. After interminable holds, a polite agent confirmed 3 wire transfers over the last 6 months to a numbered account. Total, $312,000. I thanked her mechanically, hanging up before fury unraveled my voice. Asia steadied me with a hand on my shoulder. We call a lawyer. Today. Jamal's phone already buzzed as he cued names of forensic accountants. Hope flickered that motherhood might finally let me receive instead of give. Hidden pull. Yet beneath the rush to salvage assets, a deeper question coiled. If money disappeared, what else had Franklin hidden in plain sight? Before noon, we met attorney Clarice Boyd in her downtown office lined with diplomas and discreet tissue boxes. Clarice listened, brows knitting. First priority is freezing accounts, she said, typing rapid fire. Second, filing for legal separation to protect your credit. Third, subpoenaing Sister Rhodes once we locate her. She paused. Did either of them mention offshore holdings? I slid the airline tickets across her desk. Clarice frowned. Interesting timing. She copied them, eyes narrowing at the booking agency's logo known for privacy packages. Could be hush money travel or asset transfer disguised as vacation. She handed them back. We'll find out. Outside, storm clouds gathered again, literal and metaphorical. I inhaled humid air, heavy with wisteria and regret. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You don't know everything. Meet me tonight. 8 p.m. Fellowship Baptist parking lot. Come alone. Myra? Franklin or someone else caught in their web. Asia read my expression. Bad? I pocketed the phone, potentially clarifying. Rain began to fall, tapping warnings on the hood. Decisions loomed. Attend the meeting and risk deeper hurt, or ignore it and risk staying blind to secrets that could upend more than finances. Either way, the next stitch in my broken dishes quilt would have to be sewn with lightning overhead. And as we drove home through sheets of spring rain, I couldn't help but wonder who exactly would be waiting beneath that church lamp, and what confession might crack this story even wider. The Fellowship Baptist parking lot sits behind a Gothic brick sanctuary, its single lamppost casting just enough yellow to make shadows look suspicious. At 7:58 p.m., I eased Jamal's hand from the steering wheel. I go alone, I reminded him. He hated every syllable but nodded, circling once before parking 3 blocks away with his hazard lights dimmed. Rain left mist on my glasses as I stepped into the lamplight, heart thudding louder than the cicadas. A figure emerged from behind the church van, not Franklin, taller, slimmer, and definitely not Myra. The stride was too cautious. Mrs. Rhodes? A woman's voice, mid-30s, shaky. She stepped closer, hoodie dripping, and pushed wet bangs from her forehead. She hesitated. Dr. Celeste Martin. I worked with Franklin at Piedmont Trauma for 8 years. I blinked. The resident he always praised? She laughed bitterly. The resident who kept his secrets. She handed me a flash drive. This holds scanned purchase orders for medical supplies the clinic never received. Franklin routed refunds to that numbered account. My pulse spiked. Why bring this to me? Because the board fired me last week, officially for budget disputes, actually for refusing to sign new fake invoices. She bit her lip. Your sister processed payments as administrative consultant. I thought you deserved to know before they shift blame onto you. A car turned onto the lot. Headlights swept us. Celeste flinched, thrusting a second envelope into my hand. His retirement fund statement. Half the balance moved offshore yesterday. Tires crunched again. Jamal's sedan re-entering. I'm safe, I signaled him with a raised palm, though nerves fluttered. Celeste exhaled. I have copies stored. If anything happens to me, a journalist friend gets them. I squeezed her arm. You've protected many patients, now let us protect you. I gave her Clarice Boyd's card. Tell her I sent you, she'll know how to shield a whistleblower. She nodded, eyes glistening with rain and fear. I'm done living silent. Then she slipped into the darkness, leaving me with evidence that threatened Franklin's medical license and Myra's credibility in one stroke. At home, the kitchen smelled of burnt coffee, Jamal's stress brew. Clarice joined via video call, glasses reflecting spreadsheets. This corroborates bank transfers, she said, scanning Celeste's files. We file civil fraud tomorrow and ask the DA to open a criminal probe. She glanced at me. Jerry, this escalates. Are you ready for public fallout? I thought of quilting triangles, each jagged yet essential to make pattern whole. Ready or not, I said, truth quilts stronger than lies. Franklin's motel foyer reeked of stale cigarettes when we arrived with Detective Moreno at 9 a.m. next morning. Franklin opened his door in scrubs, face lined from sleeplessness. His eyes widened at the detective's badge. Jerry, what have you done? What you wouldn't, I replied, handing Moreno the flash drive. Stop any patient rounds today. You're under investigation. Franklin's shoulders drooped. Who tipped you? Someone you underestimated. Myra's name hung unsaid, but pain flickered in his eyes. Detective Moreno read Franklin his rights regarding financial misconduct. No cuffs yet, formalities first. As they talked, I noticed a crumpled letter on the nightstand addressed Jerry. Without touching it, I read the first line. I never meant for you to shoulder my cowardice. My resolve wavered, but I steadied. Contrition doesn't erase consequence. News broke by noon. Renowned trauma surgeon investigated for fraud. Kat's byline confirmed anonymous hospital sources and hinted at family entanglements. Social media split. Some defended Franklin's surgical miracles, others condemned betrayal. My phone vibrated incessantly. One message froze me. Myra Gary. Meet me at Mama's cabin. Need to explain. Tonight 10. Mama's lake cabin, abandoned since she passed. The place where Myra and I once whispered future dreams under patchwork quilts. I forwarded the address to Clarice, then typed to Jamal. Track my phone, bring detective if silent 30-minute. He replied with a single. The cabin smelled of cedar and nostalgia. Myra sat on the porch steps clutching a battered photo album. Moonlight painted her tear-streaked cheeks silver. I know I don't deserve your audience, she began, voice raw, but I need to hand you our past. She opened the album. Letters, ticket stubs, photos, proof of her and Franklin spanning decades. I cataloged everything, she said. Therapist said confession means evidence. I'm submitting this tomorrow, but I want you to see the first page. A Polaroid. Young Franklin, arms around me and Myra at a beach bonfire the summer I introduced them. On the back, in Mira's handwriting, the night everything changed. Forgive me someday. My throat tightened. Why keep it? Because love twisted into shame, she whispered, and shame hoards souvenirs. I closed the album. Hand it to the detective, I said, voice steady. Let justice archive it. She nodded, tears falling onto the cover. Jerry, I'm checking into a residential counseling center. Financial fraud charges include me. I won't fight them, but I'll fight for recovery. Headlights approached, Jamal and Detective Moreno. I stepped onto the path, handing over the album without a word. The detective sealed it in an evidence bag. Jamal looked at me, question in his eyes. I nodded. I was okay, or close enough. Back home, dawn smeared pink over a sky rinsed by storms. I returned to my craft room, quilt in lap. With the newest stitch, I whispered a vow. Each fragment, betrayal, confession, fraud, would be pieced until pattern made sense. Somewhere Franklin faced spreadsheets turned subpoenas. Somewhere Myra faced clinic walls that whispered healing, and I, needle steady, prepared to transform broken dishes into a design no storm could undo. Tomorrow, lawyers, media, and grandchildren's honest questions awaited. Tonight, thread pulled fabric into new alignment, and a widow in everything but paperwork sewed the first seam of her next life, one honest inch at a time. The hum of fluorescent lights in Clarice Boyd's law office sounded like an anxious beehive the next morning. I sat flanked by my sons and Clarice's paralegal, while stacks of discovery grew into architectural models of our fractured life. Funny how a marriage can fit into manila folders once you subtract the affection. Clarice clicked her pen. We filed an emergency motion for exclusive use of the marital residence, she said. With evidence of asset diversion, the judge should sign by Friday. She slid a document across the table, my affidavit. Seeing my name beside plaintiff jolted me. After 40 years, I was suing the man who once recited poetry while bandaging my blisters on our Appalachian Trail honeymoon. Jamal's phone vibrated. He glanced, jaw tightening. Local news van outside the subdivision again. Asia squeezed his knee. I refused to shrink. Reporters want quotes? I asked, voice sharpened by a sleepless night. Tell them the only statement is in court. Clarice nodded approvingly but tapped her keyboard. Media pressure helps prosecutors move faster. The grand jury hears Franklin's tax fraud case next Tuesday. Public interest is leverage. I signed the affidavit, pen trembling on the final stroke. Clarice notarized it, slid it into a red-tabbed envelope, and whispered, "Courage, filed." Outside, May sunshine glinted off a lens just beyond Clarice's glass doors. A reporter chirped questions. "Mrs. Rhodes, was your sister coerced or complicit?" While cameramen angled for a tearful close-up, I straightened my spine, channeling Mama's steel. "My family will address the court, not the sidewalk," I said, guiding Asia toward the parking lot. FOMO's quiet tug. Part of me feared silent dignity might look like guilt, but another part, the seed freshly planted in resilience, said headlines shift, truth roots. As we pulled away, Asia broke the silence. "Mom, the counseling center asked if you'd attend a mediation session with Myra." I braked at a stop sign a little harder than necessary. Jamal's brow arched. "You're not obligated, but..." He left the rest unsaid. Closure? Confrontation? Both wore the same mask. Myra's appointment was in 2 days. Images flashed. Childhood blanket forts, secret sharing under Christmas lights, then 20-year deception. My stomach clenched. "I'll think on it," I said, which really meant I'd lie awake wrestling the decision until dawn. Back home, mail overflowed the foyer bench. Past due notices for the clinic's malpractice premiums, a letter from Franklin's attorney requesting amicable negotiation, and a postcard from Nana's Quilting Guild reminding me of Saturday's charity raffle. The ordinary pressed against the catastrophic like mismatched quilt squares yearning to fit. I retreated to the craft room. The broken dishes quilt lay half-assembled, triangles of sunset orange against storm gray. I stitched 3 seams before pausing at a sudden memory. Franklin on call, Myra babysitting so I could finish my first quilt. Had they shared secret glances then? My needle pricked my finger. A ruby bead of blood dotted the orange fabric. "Perfect," I muttered. "Stains belong here." Phone buzz. Cat's name. "Brace yourself," she said. "Hale County Medical Center just suspended Franklin's privileges. Internal memo leaked to press, mentions fraudulent invoices." Relief mingled with sorrow. A surgeon stripped of scalpel was a violinist without strings, yet sympathy fizzled. Choices bear consequences. Kat lowered her voice. "One more thing. You remember Dr. Celeste Martin's friend at the Atlanta Ledger? He traced that numbered account to a property company buying a condo. In Myra's name." My chest tightened. Even after exposure, Franklin still transferred wealth to her. Or was it hush money? Kat added, "Journalists running story tomorrow unless you need delay." I swallowed pain. Publish, light disinfects. Evening draped the house in gold when my youngest grandchild, Emma, video called from her grandparents' guest room. "Grand Jerry, are Mommy and Daddy okay? Grandpa Frank's name is on TV." Her 6-year-old face puckered with worry starbursts. I inhaled steady courage. "Sweetheart, grown-ups made mistakes. We're fixing them together. Your job is to keep sprinkling kindness on everyone. Deal?" She pinky swore through the screen. After the call, Jamal found me staring at the darkening garden. "You sure about counseling with Aunt Myra?" he asked. I watched fireflies spark among azaleas. "If recovery is battlefield triage, the surgeon can't flinch at blood," I answered. My voice shook, but truth stood. Quiet pull again. Somewhere in those counseling walls, I might hear a confession that rewrites blame lines. Was I ready for another narrative shift? Perhaps quilts, like hearts, must tolerate ripping seams to realign patterns. At midnight, thunder grumbled far off. Storm season was turning. I finished one more row of stitches. The blood spot had dried, a tiny rust badge on cotton. I decided not to scrub it out. Imperfection told the story better than pristine fabric ever could. Tomorrow, depositions, interviews, mediation prep. Tonight, the quilt's growing weight warmed my lap, a tangible promise that shattered pieces can find symmetry if the hands stay steady. And beneath distant thunder, I whispered the mantra guiding each thread. I will not inherit their secrets. I will craft my own design. 2 mornings later, I stood outside Cypress Oak's counseling retreat, palms sweating against a styrofoam coffee cup that had long gone cold. The place looked more bed and breakfast than rehab. Wraparound porch, rocking chairs, wisteria looping the rail. Inside, though, were rooms thick with confessions, and one of them waited for my sister and me. Myra emerged from a side door with a therapist at her shoulder, a reed-slim woman named Dr. Sue, who greeted me with the tone you reserve for skittish animals. Myra's hair was pulled back. No jewelry, eyes clear but rimmed pink. We exchanged polite nods. The distance between siblings translated into choreography. Dr. Sue led us into a sunlit studio that smelled of lavender and old wood. A circular rug, 2 armchairs, a low table holding a box of tissues like a white flag. Myra sat first, fiddling with the hem of her cardigan. I chose the opposite seat, spine straight. Silence ballooned until Dr. Sue pierced it. Today is for facts and feelings. No interruptions, no defense, just witness. She nodded to Myra. My sister's voice quavered. I've rehearsed hundreds of apologies, but none survive the air. She inhaled. Jerry, I loved Franklin before I understood what real love costs. Each year I tried to end it, and each year cowardice won. When he suggested telling you, I panicked. I bought those Santorini tickets to push you two together, hoping you'd rekindle and he'd choose you fully. She swallowed. Instead, he chose daylight, but the wrong way. I kept expression neutral. My heart hammered. Why hide the clinic fraud? I asked. Love is one sin, theft another. Tears slid unchecked. He said diverting funds was temporary to cover legal fees for a clean break. I believed him. Her shoulders shook. I thought if I didn't sign, he'd leave me too. Pull of dread. Codependency dressed as devotion. No surprise, yet still it bruised. Dr. Sue passed her a tissue. Jerry, your turn. I steadied my breathing. You were my first secret keeper. Crushes, job fears, mama's last wishes. You repaid that trust with a 4-decade excavation under my marriage. My voice cracked but held. I can't erase love you two chose, but I will not sponsor its fallout. The DA has your name. The board has the invoices. I won't try to intervene. Mercy must grow from consequences, not avoidance. Myra nodded, devastation mixing with relief, as if hearing the verdict allowed grief to start its own stitching. I accept. We sat in thick quiet. Rain began tapping skylights, cymbal soft. Dr. Sue broke the hush. Closure rarely ends with signatures. It ends when new boundaries feel safe. She looked at me. Would you like to set one? I pictured the broken dishes quilt, triangles locked at sharp angles yet part of the same fabric. My boundary, I said slowly, is distance until legal matters settle. After that, if you're still seeking sobriety from lies, not substances, we can talk about future ground. Myra's nod was small but earnest. I'll wait. Session ended, paperwork signed. On the porch, Myra handed me a slim notebook. Franklin's original clinic ledgers, copies. The DA has them, but you should too. I never want you blindsided again. I took it, the weight disproportionate to its size. As I walked to the car, Jamal texted, Ledger article live. Link? I opened the story. Headline blazed, Sister Act fraud tied to Rhodes marriage scandal. Photos showed Franklin in scrubs, Myra leaving court in sunglasses, and me quilting at a charity booth. Unaware lens captured grief mid-stitch. The article quoted sources about offshore condos, clinic patients, double billed. At the bottom, a poll. Should spouses be prosecuted alongside doctors? Public opinion swung like a pendulum hungry for targets. Driving home, talk radio hosts dissected the saga between ads for car insurance and hot wings, betrayal package for commute entertainment. I clicked the dial off, letting wiper blades mark time. That evening, Reverend Lewis, our longtime pastor, arrived unannounced with peach cobbler still warm. Comfort comes sugared, he chuckled. We sat at the dining table, the same board where truth detonated. He bowed his head, praying for healing of shattered vessels. When he left, the cobbler remained, but the room felt less haunted. Phone buzzed. Unknown number, voicemail, Franklin, his voice ragged. I've taken plea negotiations. Licensure hearing next month. Might lose everything. Tell the boys I'm sorry. No, I'll say it myself. He ended with a sob that sliced me. I deleted the message, but not before transcribing the apology into my journal. Someday the children might need proof. Remorse existed. I returned to the craft room. Night pressed against the window, but desk lamp cast a steady pool. I inspected the quilt's blood-speckled patch, then chose deep indigo fabric to frame it, turning stain into centerpiece. Needle moved with new certainty. Outside, sirens wailed far off, someone else's crisis starting while mine inched toward resolution. Yet for the first time since that disastrous dinner, a fragile calm settled. Legal storms still brewed, love lines remained fractured, but the map of my next life showed a path. Protect assets, nurture grandchildren, finish quilts that tell unedited stories. Thread tightened, forming a knot. I snipped the tail, whispered thanks to patience, and folded the growing blanket over the chair. Tomorrow, depositions. Tonight, stitches held. And somewhere beyond courthouse walls, justice measured its steps while forgiveness waited. Not as absolution, but as possibility. One honest inch further down the seam. 8 weeks later, the Fulton County Courthouse lobby buzzed like a beehive in late summer. Reporters, white-collar detectives, former patients who felt equal parts betrayed and vindicated. I arrived with Clarice, a folded copy of the broken dishes quilt draped over my arm like armor. It was finished now. Orange, storm gray, and that single rust-red blood spot framed in indigo. A journalist recognized it from Kat's article and raised a camera. I let the flash pop. If my life was a headline, it might as well show every patch. Up on the 5th floor, Franklin waited outside courtroom 5C, flanked by his attorney and a hospital liaison taking frantic notes. He looked smaller in a charcoal suit, 2 sizes too big after weeks of lost appetite. When our eyes met, he offered a nod heavy with shame. I returned a measured dip of my chin. No mercy, no malice, just acknowledgement that the reckoning he once delayed had finally set its watch. Inside, Judge Maldonado opened proceedings with the precision of a surgeon, ironic given the man at the defense table. The assistant DA outlined the plea. Franklin would surrender his medical license, pay $650,000 restitution to the clinic, and accept 5 years probation with 18 months house arrest. Myra's charges, accessory after the fact, were folded into a diversion program contingent on continued treatment and community service. The judge asked if any victim wished to address the court. Clarice nudged me. I rose, quilt in hand, heart knocking harder than any gavel. Your Honor, I began, voice steady though palm slick, my statement is sewn, not written. I unfolded the quilt so its jagged pattern spilled across the table rail. Murmurs rippled in the gallery. These pieces are my marriage, my sisterhood, my clinic, cut apart by deceit. I stitched them back, not to hide the breaks, but to show survival's geometry. I traced the dried blood speck. This stain is the night betrayal dripped onto hope. I framed it on purpose, so I never forget, and never let silence pretend to be peace again. I turned to Franklin. Your scalpel once removed tumors from strangers' bodies. Today the scalpel is truth, removing excuses. Do the hard recovery work, not for me, but for our grandchildren who will read these transcripts one day. Judge Maldonado's gaze softened. The court thanks Mrs. Rhodes for her. He searched. Living exhibit. He accepted the plea, sentence read into record. Gavel down. Closure, notarized. As deputies guided Franklin through a side door, no cuffs but no stethoscope either, he paused. Geraldine, he said, voice sandpaper low, your quilt is beautiful. I wanted to say it's stronger than you thought I was, but instead I nodded. That was plenty. Outside, cameras converged. Kat lobbed softball questions so I could shape the soundbite. Secrets cost more than surgery. We paid in trust. Today begins repayment. A drizzle started, flecking microphones with silver. Reporters scattered for umbrellas. Clarice, umbrella balanced, handed me a file. Judge also signed exclusive occupancy and a temporary support order. Relief washed over me. Mortgage, safe, utilities, covered. Clinic board seats transferred solely to me and the other two partners. Clarice winked, and the DA froze. The Santorini condo. Title will revert to the restitution pool. We drove straight to the clinic, still running on skeleton staff and goodwill donations. Dr. Celeste Martin met us in the lobby, fresh off her first day back after whistleblower leave. She hugged me quick, eyes shiny. Board rehired me as medical director, she said. First order, transparent books, no shadow vendors. She glanced at the quilt draped over my arm. May we hang that in the waiting room? Patients need to see healing isn't always clean lines. I smiled. My heart surprisingly didn't crack at the idea. It belongs where scars and stitches are daily vocabulary. Evening found me back home, alone for the first time in months. Jamal had taken the grandkids for pizza, Asia caught up on charts, and the house rested. No legal papers on counters, no reporters at the gate. I brewed chamomile, carried it to the craft room. The quilt's absence left the chair bare, but new fabric awaited. Dove gray, sunrise gold, and a bolt of sea blue chosen for promise. I spread the fresh cloth on the cutting mat. Beyond the window, lightning bugs blinked like slow camera shutters in the yard. I inhaled the clean scent of unwashed cotton and whispered to the room, to God, to whichever ancestor guides quilters through grief, one more design, stitched in peace. The sewing machine purred, rain tapped the window, and the empty hallway echoed not with loneliness but with spaciousness. A home no longer crowded by lies. I did not know yet what pattern this new quilt would take, only that the scraps were mine to choose, the seams mine to set, and the story, finally, mine to author, without hidden editors. Chapter 4. Part 2. Mid-August heat shimmered above the church parking lot as guests filed into Fellowship Hall for the clinic's relaunch, and the public unveiling of the broken dishes quilt that had somehow gone viral. Kat's article about courtroom textiles spun into a segment on morning television. Betrayal quilt. How one woman sewed her way through scandal. Orders for prints poured in. Proceeds now funneled into patient assistance funds. If heartache had a royalty check, I suppose this was it. Inside, the quilt hung behind the podium, spotlighted. Children traced its zigzags, elders nodded appreciatively. Dr. Celeste introduced me as our survivor stitcher-in-chief. I spoke briefly. No tearful saga, just gratitude and a challenge. May we treat hidden wounds with daylight and skill, same as we treat broken bones. Applause eased into guitar chords as the youth choir sang. I caught sight of Franklin in the back, ankle monitor visible beneath khakis. Court. Order allowed him church attendance. Myra sat 2 rows ahead, hair growing silver roots, counselor at her side. Their presence wasn't warm, but it was real, and reality beats illusion every time. After the program, Franklin approached, hands clasped. "May I hold it?" he asked, nodding to the quilt. I hesitated, then guided him to the frame. He studied the blood spot block, eyes moist. "Your pain became art," he whispered. "I caused the wound. Thank you for letting me see the healing." I replied softly, "Seeing isn't the same as mending, but it's a start." Myra joined, clutching a box wrapped in craft paper. "For you," she said. Inside lay Mama's antique silver thimble I'd lost years ago. "Found it in my jewelry chest," she admitted. "Thought I deserved it, but, well." The metal glinted, tiny dents catching fluorescent light. I slid it onto my finger. It fit, as if time had waited. Outside, grandchildren tugged my skirt. "Grand Jerry, lemonade stands open." They dragged me to a table where sticky coins exchanged for Dixie cups. Life's small commerce continued, unscathed by adult turmoil. That evening, Jamal, Asia, the kids, and I picnicked in the backyard. Fireflies bobbed while cicadas tuned their string section. Mary Beth strummed a guitar. The children sang off-key. When twilight deepened, Jamal produced a portable projector. Onto the garden wall, he beamed a photo montage. Weddings, basketball games, quilting bees, minus Franklin by my request, but including childhood snapshots of Myra and me building blanket forts. The last slide showed the broken dishes quilt beside an empty design wall titled, "Next Pattern to be Named." Tears slipped without pain. Asia squeezed my hand. "What will you sew next?" she asked. I thought of the dove gray, sunrise gold, sea blue fabric waiting upstairs. "Maybe a pattern called Second Morning," I said, "where triangles point forward, not apart." The family cheered the idea like fireworks. Later, when the house settled, I climbed to the craft room lit only by moon through dormer glass. Fabric lay ready. I threaded Mama's silver thimble, whispering thanks for inherited resilience. Needle-pierced cloth. 1, 2, 3 stitches anchoring hope to horizon. Down the road in a rented bungalow, Franklin journaled restitution schedules. Across town, Myra attended her 3rd group session, learning difference between love and need. The clinic's ledgers balanced. Patients scheduled follow-ups free of shadow invoices. And I, seated at my machine, rode the gentle hum into tomorrow. Outside, the Georgia night sighed, cricket steady, as if the world, having witnessed secrets wrought, was content to hum a quieter tune. The first piece of Second Morning took shape beneath my hands, bright against the gray, the promise of a dawn earned, not given.